So the big news of today, the big stuff, the thing that happened today that we'll be talking about for a little bit. Russell Westbrook demanded a trade, or asked for a trade, I guess, out of Houston. Yeah. So apparently he wanted to be more of the lead ball handler, which is understandable, I guess, considering, or not understandable, but I mean, you have James Harden with you, so you're never going to be the lead ball handler. Um, and he had questions about the team culture, which is also understandable. So the deal here is the Rockets are in a bad position right now because Westbrook once traded, right? They gave up picks to get him in exchange for Chris Paul, which right now, that ain't looking too smart right now. I'm going to tell you something. In 3 or 4 years, when we look back on the 2019 offseason, when Kawhi Leonard and Paul George went to LA, we're going to look there and we're going to say the Oklahoma City Thunder were the biggest winner of that offseason. Okay? So, Westbrook wants a trade. And the issue is there's not going to be a lot of teams that are out seeking his services, in my opinion at least. Or at least not a lot of teams that would have a not a not a lot of teams that would have a good fit with him is what I'm trying to say here. And the reason I say that is first off, he's not an average he's a below average 3-point shooter. He relies heavily upon his athleticism and he's getting old. And he is owed tons of money. Like, yikes, that's a lot of money that they owe him. Uh, People call him a stat hog, all of that good stuff. Now, granted, he was once an MVP, and we do have to remember that. But at the same time, he relies more on athleticism than he does his IQ. Now, you could definitely argue that the Thunder, like straight up, if the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Houston Rockets had just swapped Chris Paul for Russell Westbrook, no picks involved, you can definitely argue that the Thunder got the better side of that. And I would say you do, because Chris Paul's game ages better because he relies more upon his IQ than he does upon his athleticism due to his lack of athleticism. But Russell Westbrook, he's just flying around, running around, grabbing boards. And when you get older, I mean, that's not as suitable, not as good as an option as it once is. Okay? I mean, look at LeBron. LeBron's athleticism is declining. I mean, you can't tell me that he's not as athletic as he was in his Miami Heat days, right? But his IQ, the way he plays the game, is just getting better. And that's why, he's still such a good player, still in the MVP race at this age. Now, the issue is I don't see Russell Westbrook doing any major changes to the way he plays his game. He just doesn't seem like the kind of guy that's gonna, go out and completely change their game. Because people have been criticizing him for a while. So if he was gonna change his game, I feel like he would have done it way back when. But hey, who knows? So obviously, once again, this also brought up James Harden rumors, but we'll talk about that in another video. Yeah, fun stuff. Anyways, so where could Russell Westbrook go? So people are saying the Knicks. That is an awful idea. I'm just going to throw that out there right now. The New York Knicks should not trade for Russell Westbrook. They should not give up any of the younger players, even though most of them aren't showing too much promise. They shouldn't give up any of their picks for him. If you trade for a player like him, first off, you have to understand, you're in New York. That is a desirable free agency location, right? Second off, I'm not going to say you probably can't sign someone because they haven't so far. But if you have a somewhat competent organization, you'd probably be able to sign one sooner or later, sign a star player sooner or later. And by trading for Russell Westbrook, you're going to be speeding up your timeline so much right there, right? You're going to go from, hey, we have a couple of years, to get good players, surround R.J. Barrett and Mitchell Robinson, surround all of those guys with talent. You're going to go from that to, okay, we need to contend now before Russell Westbrook's prime is ruined. And that's just not a timeline that I like for the New York Knicks. Now, you know, obviously people are going to think that, the Miami Heat, we've been over this before. Anytime, someone wants to trade, you kind of have to mention Miami Heat. I don't think that happens from a Miami Heat fan standpoint and from a team standpoint. Um, Russell Westbrook and Jimmy Butler would get into a fight. I'm 110% sure of that. He doesn't fit the team at all. There's already a lack of shooting on the team, with Jimmy and Bam being, no shows basically from three. Adding Russell, who he's willing to shoot the three, that is for sure, but he is not exactly elite and knocking him down. It's just not a great fit, in my opinion. Um, so there are two other teams that I'd more or less say could be. Okay, so there's one team that, it's already been rumored and stuff, and that is the Los Angeles Clippers. So we'll talk about that now, I guess. So in this trade, the Clippers would just be going straight up for star power. I'm assuming it would look something like Patrick Beverley, Montrezl Harrell is a free agent. They're going to be sacrificing depth for star power, the third star that they're hoping that can push them over the edge next season. Which, I mean, I'm not exactly opposed to, seeing as how depth didn't work this year. This year showed that chemistry is the most important thing. Because teams that have the most chemistry got the furthest. Now, Paul George and Russell Westbrook do have chemistry, obviously. But you have to ask the question, did it get them anywhere? And that is a no, it did not. Oklahoma City was not it. And the fact that they've had more or less the same level of success without those two guys should definitely, definitely say something. Um, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, people are thinking they should blow that up already, which, I disagree with, but adding just another variable into the equation doesn't seem like the best idea to me. I mean, it's tricky for the Clippers. It's tricky because Lou Will, Patrick Beverley, those guys are getting older. Montrezl Harrell's a free agent. I'm pretty sure he's not going to come back. You don't have an elite center, especially when you could argue that the two best players in the Western Conference are centers in Jokic and Anthony Davis. I mean, it's tricky. And if I was the Clippers, I'd almost prioritize getting a center that's better than Zubac to be their starting center, I guess, to be their third star. Something like Rudy Gobert, Joel Embiid, if that 76ers breakup ever happens. A third star, or not even a star, just a center that can hold their own slightly better than Zubac. Um, Clippers, I don't think that happens. But I didn't think Paul George and Kawhi Leonard would wind up on the same team in my lifetime. So, yeah. Now, the last team, and I've made a bunch of videos about them recently. The one, the only, the Phoenix Suns. So, Phoenix, as we know, is looking for a point guard, an elite point guard. And while Russell Westbrook might not fit that definition as elite MVP level anymore, he is still an all-star point guard. And we have to respect that fact. They could probably get him without having to give up a pick. Because at this point, he is not looking like the most valuable asset ever. He's going to age very poorly with his game. Massive contract. It just does not look like a good situation. Now, I would definitely say that Chris Paul fits better on the Suns. But if they wanted to go for Russell Westbrook, I mean, they could go for Russell Westbrook. It's not exactly the craziest thing. I think they're the dark horse candidate in this situation. A trade for Westbrook would not be out of the question for me. And I saw this as a joke somewhere. I'm not entirely sure where. But the Thunder trade Chris Paul to the Rockets. The Rockets trade Westbrook and picks to the Thunder. Um, Honestly, yeah, at this point, Chris Paul is a more valuable asset than Russell Westbrook. And yeah, that's not entirely crazy. 2020, y'all. So yeah, like and subscribe if you enjoyed my content. Be sure to check out the other random videos I have linked down below. Like and subscribe. I said that already. Have a good day. Did not say that.